June 12th, 1941. A muddy test ground outside Kassel, Germany. Rain stings sideways in the wind as Oberleutnant Franz Kramer pulls his greatcoat tighter and steps toward the cordoned-off field. The storm turns the earth beneath his boots and is sucking mud, but the small vehicle in front of him seems entirely unfazed by it. Its American markings have been hastily painted over. Its olive drab skin is still caked with North African dust. And the German engineers surrounding it, clipboards tucked under their arms, are already smirking. A captured specimen, a curiosity, a joke. The Willys MB Jeep. Kramer circles it slowly. The thing looks like a toy compared to the Kübelwagen Type 82s lined up behind the fence. This is what the Americans send into war? One engineer mutters, kicking a tire. A tractor with delusions of grandeur. Another chuckles. It has no doors, no armor. The chassis looks like it was welded by farmhands. And look at this. Leaf springs? Primitive. Kramer gives only a thin smile. He is not a man easily impressed, nor is he one to dismiss a machine before learning what it can do. But even he admits, silently, that the vehicle looks crude. He lifts himself into the driver's seat. Nothing more than a thin cushion on a metal frame. Rain drips through the open sides. The steering wheel feels almost too light. And the dashboard? Barely a dashboard at all. Just a few gauges and switches, more suited to a garage than a battlefield. He glances to the technicians clustered around him. Let's see if it runs. The ignition clicks. The little four-cylinder engine coughs. Once, twice, then roars awake with surprising confidence, louder than its size suggests. It vibrates the entire frame. Kramer revs it. Mud spatters backward. The Jeep growls like a workhorse ready to be unleashed. He releases the clutch, and the small American contraption lurches forward eagerly, almost impatiently, as if insulted by the doubts surrounding it. Careful, Herr Oberleutnant, one engineer calls. It looks unstable at speed. But Kramer has already turned toward the obstacle course. The Jeep seems to anticipate every touch of the wheel. It hops over a ridge of churned soil, as if skipping over a doorstep, bounding forward with a kind of rough, irreverent agility. The suspension clatters like loose tools in a metal drawer, but it holds. Next comes a trench, 2 meters across. The Kübelwagen, watching from behind the fence, would have needed a delicate approach, a gentle angle. The Jeep simply leaps. Its front wheels lift, its rear wheels slap the mud, and it climbs out the other side without protest. The test field falls silent. Kramer brings it to a sudden stop near the waiting engineers. He climbs out, boots sinking. The men stare at him, stunned. Well, one finally asks. Kramer wipes rainwater from his brow. It is ugly, he admits. Unrefined. Loud. Uncomfortable. He pauses, but it goes anywhere I tell it to. The engineers shift uneasily. He continues. It climbs like a goat, turns on a coin, and it feels determined. One of the older technicians scoffs. Determined? It is a machine, Oberleutnant. Kramer shakes his head. Not today. Today it behaved like a soldier eager for the fight. The rain intensifies. Thunder rolls across Kassel. German engineers huddle beneath their umbrellas, unsure whether to laugh or reassess. But before any formal report can be written, a runner arrives from the headquarters building, boots splashing and breath heaving. Message for the evaluation team. Another American Jeep has been captured. This one from Crete. Command wants cross comparisons immediately. The engineers exchange looks. Point 2 captured vehicles. That meant something. Kramer folds his arms, watching the Jeep ticking quietly as rain cools its hood. He feels it already. This odd little machine is no joke, and the Americans are not sending it into war as a novelty. No, this is something else. Something the German army has not yet fully understood as the storm rumbles on. Kramer senses a shift in the wind, subtle but unmistakable. The vehicle built from stamped steel, off-the-shelf parts, and rural American stubbornness had just embarrassed German engineering pride on their own proving ground. And though no one realizes it yet, this small, square machine will soon carry the Allied armies across Europe. Deserts, jungles, mountain passes, and the ruins of the Reich itself. For now, though, it sits quietly in the rain, underestimated by the very men who will one day fear it. Kramer turns back toward it, narrowing his eyes at the modest machine. "Let's take it apart," he mutters. "If we're going to mock it, we'd best understand why it keeps winning." He doesn't yet know that he has spoken the first honest sentence anyone in Germany has uttered about the Jeep. July 3rd, 1941. Berlin. Here's Waffenamt, German Army Ordnance Office. The fluorescent lights hum softly above the long oak table. The room smells of tobacco smoke, damp wool uniforms, and a lingering oil scent clinging to the two American vehicles examined in the courtyard below. Schematics are spread out, ink smudges, grease marks, hastily drawn measurements. Oberleutnant Franz Kramer stands at attention as General Lieutenant Wilhelm Bergdorf flips through the captured Jeep's evaluation notes. Expression unreadable. He pauses at one photo. The Jeep climbing the castle trench in a single violent, muddy bound. Bergdorf huffs. "This looks staged." Kramer answers calmly. "No, Herr General. If anything, the photograph understates its ability." Around the table, the engineers bristle. Pride is a fragile thing inside the German technical corps, and the idea that a squat American utility vehicle could outperform their meticulously engineered machines feels like an insult. One engineer clears his throat. "With respect, Oberleutnant, the Kübelwagen is a superior design in every way. Air-cooled engine, more efficient fuel consumption, better suited to European climates." Another adds, "The Jeep is crude, overbuilt, wasteful." Kramer leans forward. "Wasteful or not, it moves faster than anything we have of comparable size. It turns sharper, climbs steeper slopes, and it can be repaired with a hammer." Bergdorf raises an eyebrow. "A hammer? Yes, Herr General. That is its brilliance." Silence. Not agreement, just discomfort. The Germans have built their military identity around precision, machine tolerances, carefully tuned engines, exacting standards. The Jeep violates all of those principles. It is a machine that trusts its own simplicity. Bergdorf sets the notes aside. "Tell me, Kramer, what do the Americans intend to do with this thing?" The officers lean in. Kramer answers slowly. "If it were me, sir, I would give one to every platoon in the field. Scouts could move twice as fast. Reconnaissance teams could escape ambushes. Officers could relocate quickly. Supplies could be shuttled across terrain trucks cannot reach. It is a cavalry horse, modernized." A whisper runs down the table. "Cavalry? That is fantasy. Motorized infantry cannot rely on such toys." Bergdorf nods at the engineers. "And what do you recommend?" A senior designer taps his pencil against a German technical blueprint. "We continue with the Kübelwagen as our standard light transport. Maintain engineering discipline. The Jeep's design is," he hesitates, searching for a word that won't embarrass him, "un-German." Laughter ripples lightly across the room, but Kramer doesn't smile. He knows that laugh. The laugh soldiers give before a surprise attack. The laugh engineers give before history proves them wrong. Bergdorf stands, signaling the meeting's end. "Very well. File this under captured Allied curiosities. We will study it, but not imitate it. The Americans clearly do not understand refinement." The officers salute. Papers shuffle. Chairs scrape. The room empties, but Kramer remains a moment longer, standing before the large Eastern Wall map. Pins marking German advances into the Soviet Union, red arrows cutting deep into new territory. The front lines are stretching farther each month, but he imagines a Jeep on those roads. Fords, ravines, mud the color of coffee, and twice as thick. Places where motorcycles sink and Kübelwagens bog down, that he knows what that little American machine could do there. He knows Germany has overlooked something vital. As he steps out into the sunlight, he sees the two captured Jeeps parked beside the building. The afternoon heat shimmers against their metal frames. One vehicle is fully intact. The other is half disassembled, its engine exposed, simple, rugged, unapologetic. Kramer runs a hand along the fender. He doesn't admire it. Not yet. But he respects it, because he feels it. This toy will not remain a curiosity for long. And as the months unfold, and the world plunges deeper into fire, it will become clear that the Americans have built not just a car, but a battlefield companion. One that will appear on every front, from the Libyan desert to the Russian steppe, carrying a new kind of war on its shoulders. The Germans think they understand mobility, but the Jeep is about to redefine it. November 24th, 1942. Western Desert, south of Mersa Matruh, Egypt. The desert wind howls across the open plateau, carrying sand like burning needles against exposed skin. A heat haze ripples across the horizon even as the sun dips lower, the temperature dropping fast toward the night's unforgiving cold. Corporal James Red halper and squint from beneath his dusty goggles as he grips the wheel of his Willys MB. A Thompson rests across his knees, its metal scorching from the day's sun. In the passenger seat, Lieutenant Owen Talbot studies a map that flaps violently in the wind. Behind them, two more Jeeps follow, headlights hooded, engines snarling over the sand as the small convoy tears across what should be impossible terrain. Talbot taps the dashboard. Red, cut north. Patrol says a German recon unit passed through here this morning. Red snorts. We'll catch him. Nobody outruns this little girl. He pats the Jeep's dashboard like a loyal mule. The Jeep responds by hitting a rut at full speed, leaping into the air before slamming back down in a spray of sand. The men behind them shout curses, but Red only grins wider. The German officers in Castle had called it crude, unrefined, a toy. Out here, in this yellow hell where engines choke and tires sink like stones, the Jeep has become something else entirely, a lifeline. Talbot grips the windshield frame as they crest a dune. The setting sun silhouettes a cluster of palm trees, an oasis. But that's not what makes Talbot's breath catch. Parked at the water's edge are three Kubelwagens, sand-colored and sharp-edged like beetles. And beside them, 6 men in Afrika Korps uniforms, helmets tilted back, rifles slung lazily, unaware that dust clouds are rolling toward them from the west. Red eases off the throttle. The Jeep growls but obeys. Talbot whispers, "We're close enough." Quiet approach. Red scoffs. "Quiet? In this thing?" "Lieutenant, the engine sounds like it's arguing with itself." Talbot suppresses a smile, then argues softly. Behind them, the other Jeeps fan out, engines low, movements deliberate. The Americans slide over the sand like shadows. Then, cracked at a single twig snaps under a back tire point. One German soldier looks up, eyes widen. Rifle lifts. Talbot shouts, "Go! Go!" Red slams the accelerator. The Jeep lurches forward as the first shots split the air. Bullets kick up sand behind them. Talbot fires bursts from his Thompson, the muzzle flash lighting up the evening. The Jeep dances, not driving so much as skipping across the dunes in chaotic, bouncing strides. A Kubelwagen engine sputters to life behind them, but the German car struggles. Its low clearance scrapes. Its lighter frame rocks dangerously. It fishtails on the loose sand. Red's Jeep, by comparison, seems to revel in the challenge. Its fat tires chew through deep sand. Its suspension absorbs every violent dip. Its engine, simple, stubborn, roars with the sound of farm-born fury. Talbot points ahead. "There, rocky shelf, take us up." Red grins savagely. "Hold on to your teeth." The Jeep claws up the rocky rise, its four-wheel drive gripping like an animal. The Germans try to follow, but their vehicle's wheels spin uselessly, pebbles spraying. Talbot watches the scene below, chest heaving. Red murmurs, "Told you." Nothing beats this little girl. Moments later, the other American Jeeps join them, moving with the same aggressive agility. A short firefight ends with the German unit surrendering, hands raised, disbelief written across their dust-caked faces. One captured German NCO, still panting, mutters in accented English, "This is not possible. Your machine, it flies over sand." Talbot wipes sweat from his brow. It's not built to be pretty. It's built to get us home. As night falls, the Americans gather around their vehicles. Water canteens are passed around. Engines click as they cool. Red leans against the Jeep's hood. "Think the brass back in Berlin is laughing at us now." Talbot shakes his head. "No, I think they're starting to worry. Because the Germans have just learned something the Americans already know. The Jeep isn't just transportation, it's a weapon of mobility, a force multiplier, a machine that turns inhospitable terrain into an Allied advantage. And as the desert wind shifts, carrying the faint sounds of battle from far-off ridgelines. A new reality emerges. Where tanks can't go, the Jeep will. Where trucks bog down, the Jeep survives. Where soldiers would perish on foot, the Jeep carries them forward. This is only the beginning. The desert has shown the Jeep's teeth. Europe will soon feel its bite. January 17th, 1943, to somewhere near Oudzarga, Tunisia. Dawn creeps in as a pale ribbon of light over the broken ridgelines, revealing a landscape torn by months of battle. Burned-out tank husks, shattered olive groves, and the thin, wavering columns of smoke from villages caught between two armies. Sergeant Michael Rowe tightens his scarf against the morning chill and slaps the side of his Jeep. "Up, Betsy. Let's see if you survive the night." The engine coughs awake instantly, eager as a dog shaking off sleep. Corporal Elias Doyle, still half asleep in the passenger seat, mutters, "One day that thing's gonna start itself and drive away." Rowe climbs in. "If she does, we're following." Their orders are straightforward. Cut through the shallow valley. Find a retreating German column. Report their position before they regroup. Simple on paper. Suicidal in practice. The valley is a maze of gullies and dry creek beds. Hopeless terrain for trucks or armored cars. But this is where the Jeep thrives. Somewhere between a horse, a mountain goat, and a stubborn piece of agricultural equipment. Rowe shifts into gear, and the Jeep surges forward. They bounce across the uneven ground, suspension squealing but holding firm. The steering wheel jerks in Rowe's hands. Doyle grips the handrail. "If we hit one more damn rock, I'm riding home about it." Rowe grins. "Make sure you spell the Jeep's name right." They weave between boulders, skirt around a collapsed stone wall, and power up a dirt slope that would stop heavier vehicles cold. The Jeep growls, climbs, and crests the ridge like it was born to do it. Below them, the valley opens, mist pooling like water in a basin. Doyle lifts his binoculars. "Contact," he whispers. "Movement on the east road. Could be them." Rowe's jaw tightens. "Let's get closer." The Jeep darts down the hillside, tires skidding on loose soil. Wind tears at their clothes. The engine roars, a world blurred by speed and dust. And then, voices, German. Close. Rowe slams on the brake, bringing the Jeep to a skidding stop behind a cluster of thorn bushes. Doyle ducks. The air goes still, except for the ticking of the engine. Through the branches, silhouettes appear, German infantry resting beside two SD, KFC, 221 armored cars. Their helmets glint faintly in the morning light. Their radios spark with static. Doyle whispers, "We found the patrol. Too many to fight. We back out." Rowe nods. "Slow. Quiet." He eases the clutch. The Jeep rolls backward, barely stirring the dust. But a German soldier stands suddenly, stretching his arms, and turns toward the bushes. His eyes narrow. His head tilt. Rowe's pulse spikes. Doyle whispers, "Don't breathe." The German steps closer, point one more step, and he'll see the outline of the Jeep. Rowe's hand slides toward the gear shift. Doyle tightens his grip on his rifle. The German leans forward, squinting, trying to make sense of the dark shape. A whistle blows from the armored car. "Whitergen, move out." The soldier snaps back to attention and jogs toward the vehicle, leaving the Jeep hidden in shadow. Rowe exhales shakily. "That was close." Doyle nods, voice trembling. "I nearly met God." Rowe eases them away, careful not to disturb a brush, until the Germans disappear behind a bend in the valley. Only then does he allow the Jeep to stretch its legs again, accelerating across the open ground, engine roaring triumphantly. The radio man in the trailing Jeep sends the message back to HQ. German patrol located. Armor strength noted. Route confirmed. A small victory. One that would shape the next 3 days of battle. But the real revelation comes as the column approaches a rocky river. Crossing, one the maps labels simply, impassable. Rowe stares at the churning waters. "Doyle, you thinking what I'm thinking?" Doyle smirks. "If she floats, I'll buy her champagne." Rowe guns the engine. The Jeep hits the ford, water exploding upward as the wheels churn. The current pushes hard, but the Jeep pushes harder, its exhaust bubbling like a stubborn alligator. For a moment, Doyle braces, certain they're about to be swept away, but the Jeep claws up the far bank, tires slinging mud, engine howling triumphantly as it drags them on a solid ground. Rowe wipes his brow. See? She swims fine. Doyle mutters, she swims like a brick, but she swims. The other jeeps follow, each one throwing sheets of water as they ford the river that no motor vehicle was supposed to cross. And that's when the truth becomes undeniable. The jeep goes where maps say no, where engineers say cannot, where commanders say impossible. That IT is not merely transportation, it's a rewriting of what mobility means in war. Above them, a German reconnaissance plane appears, circling, searching. Rowe ducks the jeep beneath an outcrop. Doyle whispers, think they're wondering how we got across that river. Rowe cracks a smile. Latch England. They wait in silence as the aircraft moves on. Far behind them, the Germans still believe the river protects their flank. They have no idea that a handful of American scouts, carried by machines their engineers once mocked, are already miles ahead, rewriting the day's battlefield before the first shots are even fired. June 7th, 1944 at Normandy, just beyond Omaha Beach. The dawn mist hangs low over the hedgerows. Smoke from the previous day's carnage drifts inland, mixing with the heavy scent of churned earth and cordite. The roads are clogged with wrecked landing craft debris, shattered equipment, and the bodies of men who never made it off the sand. But pushing through the chaos, dodging shell holes, weaving around burned-out tanks, is a single jeep driven by Private First Class Harlan Huck Brewer. Huck's sleeves are rolled to his elbows, forearms coated in sand and sweat. Beside him, Captain Samuel Wright holds a field notebook tight against his chest, the pages damp from seawater and blood. The jeep's engine rattles but refuses to quit. Its tires, still coated with beach sand, bite into the muddy French road like they've been waiting their whole lives for this kind of test. Wright mutters, hard to believe we cleared that beach only yesterday. Huck spits out sand. Hard to believe I'm still breathing, sir. They push past a group of infantry crouched low behind a stone wall, their helmets dented and splattered with shrapnel. A medic waves them through. The road bends, revealing a hedgerow gap blasted open by engineers only hours earlier. Huck sees it immediately. Deep ruts, slick mud, collapsed fencing. A death trap for any vehicle larger than theirs. Wright taps the windshield frame. Take it slow and steady. Huck snorts. Sir, slow isn't in this thing's vocabulary. He shifts into low gear and guns the engine. The jeep lunges forward, bouncing violently as it slams over roots and shattered timber. Mud sprays and arcs behind them. A truck would have bogged instantly. A tank couldn't even fit through the gap. But the jeep squeezes through, scraping one fender, losing a headlamp, but pushing onward as they burst into the next field. They find themselves face to face with a squad of German paratroopers sprinting toward a stone farmhouse, clearly prepping a defensive position. Wright barks, reverse, reverse. Huck doesn't even look back. No time. He slams the shifter, jerks the wheel, and the jeep pivots so sharply that Wright grabs the dash to keep from flying out. They tear across the open field, machine gun fire tearing up the ground behind them. Bullets clang off the rear panel. One smashes through the spare tire. Another whips past Wright's ear. He shouts over the wind, Huck, do not get us killed. Huck grins wildly. Jeep says keep going. They hit a ditch, hard, leaping into the air before slamming down in a cloud of dirt. Wright's helmet goes flying. I'm filing a complaint with God himself. The jeep races toward a cluster of American rifles poking out from behind a hedgerow. The infantry scatter aside as Huck skids the vehicle to a stop. A sergeant steps forward. Captain Wright. Wright, breathless, nods. We located a German fallback position. Paratroopers digging in. They'll bottleneck the entire advance if we don't knock them out. The sergeant whistles sharply. Hear that, boys? We've got work. Troops spring into motion, disappearing into the hedgerows. Within minutes, the distant crack of rifles and the thump of mortar rounds echo across the French countryside. Huck watches them disappear, chest heaving. You know, he mutters, somebody's got to tell Detroit this little tin can just save 100 lives. Wright picks up his notebook, now streaked with mud. That's the thing, he says quietly. This isn't about Detroit. Huck frowns. Then who's it about? Wright rests a hand on the jeep's hood, feeling the vibrations of its idling engine. Steady, stubborn, alive. It's about every soldier we move, every message we carry, every wounded man we haul out of hell faster than he could crawl. This machine, he pats the hood, isn't designed to win battles. It's designed to let us win them. The wind shifts, carrying the sound of distant armor. Shermans grinding their way inland. Huck steps back into the Jeep. So, sir, where to next? Wright looks toward the rising sun over Normandy's fields. Anywhere, he says. Anywhere they need us. As they roll forward into the thick of the hedgerows, weaving through terrain so tight it devours tanks and swallows trucks whole, one truth becomes undeniable. The invasion of Europe is not being carried on the backs of giants. It's being carried on a squat little vehicle with no doors, no armor, and no fear that a machine Germany once laughed at, now leading the charge toward their own homeland. August 18th, 1944. South of Argentan, France. The closing jaws of the Falaise pocket. Dust clouds rise like storm fronts over the plains as the Allied advance tightens around the retreating German 7th Army. Roads are choked with wrecked vehicles, abandoned guns, and civilian carts overturned in the panicked flight that a small column of jeeps slices through the fields beside the main road, ignoring terrain, ignoring pathways, ignoring anything that might slow the pursuit. In the lead vehicle, Lieutenant Riley Mason grips the wheel with white knuckles. A bar rests upright beside him, bouncing violently with every rut. In the passenger seat, Technician 5th grade Lewis Calder scans through a pair of binoculars. Movement, 3 o'clock. Calder calls. Could be stragglers trying to slip the cordon. Mason adjusts his goggles. You think they're lost? Calder shakes his head. Nobody in that army is lost anymore. They're just running. The jeeps maintain speed. Engines wailing, transmissions rattling, tires clawing through wheat stubble and churned soil. Trucks behind them struggle to keep pace. Half-tracks fall behind. Tanks might as well be statues in this open country. The Jeep is the only thing fast enough to hunt. Mason's radio cracks with static. A voice cuts through. Blue Patrol, be advised. German convoy heading northeast toward the forest road. If they break through, they'll escape the pocket. Calder lowers the radio handset. That's our quarry. Mason doesn't reply. He simply pushes the Jeep harder. The little machine bursts over a crest in the terrain, and there they are, a ragged convoy of German vehicles, stretched thin, a few Opel Blitz trucks, 2 motorcycles, and a lone SD. KFC. 250 half-track limping along with smoke leaking from its engine compartment. Calder exhales. That's them, and they're barely holding together. Mason's jaw sets. All the better. They don't get away. He raises a hand. The signal. The jeeps fan out in a wide arc. A German motorcycle glances back, spots them, and the driver shouts to the convoy. Engines sputter to life. German soldiers leap onto truck beds. Rifle fire cracks across the fields. Mason swerves sharply, the jeep fishtailing in a plume of dust. Rounds whistle past. One punches a hole straight through the canvas bag, strapped to the rear. Calder raises his M1 and returns fire in quick, precise bursts. The motorcycle tries to pull ahead, but the jeep closes distance effortlessly. Mason guns the throttle, and the jeep surges like a dog after a rabbit, closing the gap over uneven ground the motorcycle struggles to navigate. Hold steady. Calder shouts that a burst. The motorcycle flips sideways, tumbling end over end until it skids to a smoking stop. The convoy begins to splinter, trucks taking separate paths across the field, hoping to scatter their pursuers. But jeeps are built for this. Mason swings left, pursuing one of the trucks. Another jeep splits off to the right. The third loops around behind the German half-track, harassing it with small arms fire, forcing it to slow down further as Mason accelerates. The truck ahead jolts violently over a ditch and nearly tips. German soldiers scramble to steady themselves. Calder shouts over the roar of the engine. They're panicking. Good, Mason growls. Panicked men make mistakes. The truck tries to turn toward a narrow tree line. Mason anticipates it, angles right, and cuts them off. Calder fires again. The truck screeches to a halt. Arms rise in surrender. Chaos settles into silence. But there's still the half-track. Its engine sputters, frame groaning under the stress of incoming fire. It lurches toward a small grove, one last desperate attempt to slip away. The third Jeep breaks pursuit and signals to Mason. "You're closer? Cut them off." Mason jerks the wheel, and the Jeep rockets forward, suspension hammering violently as it bounds over a series of trenches and collapsed irrigation ditches. Calder braces against the windshield frame, teeth clenched. The half-track enters the grove, branches snapping against its armor. Mason floors the accelerator. "Riley, you can't take a Jeep in there." "We don't need to fit," Mason says. "We just need to block." The Jeep bursts sideways across the grove's edge, cutting across the exit path. Mason swings the wheel hard, throwing the Jeep into a sliding turn that sends dirt flying. The half-track tries to correct, its tracks biting into the soil, but it's too slow, too heavy, too wounded. T grinds to a halt, trapped between the slope and the Jeep. German soldiers climb out. Hands up, faces pale. One officer looks at the battered green Jeep, the missing headlight, the cracked windshield, the mud-caked tires, and mutters in disbelief. "Diocese Verdammt Auto. This damn car." Calder steps out, rifle raised, breathing hard. Mason wipes sweat from his brow. "Car? No. This is cavalry." Behind them, across the plain, engines roar as Allied forces tighten around the shrinking German pocket. Columns of smoke rise where other units fight their way forward. But here, right now, a handful of lightly armed American scouts, carried by a machine dismissed as crude and primitive, have just slammed shut a door the enemy was desperate to slip through. Mason climbs atop the Jeep, scanning the countryside. "Lewis," he says quietly, "we're not chasing them anymore." Calder nods slowly. "Now they're running from us." And with every mile, every field, every broken road, the Jeep leads the way, turning mobility into pressure, pressure into collapse, and collapse into the beginning of the end. July 20th, 1944, outer rim of St. Lo, Normandy. The heat is suffocating, the hedgerows thick as fortress walls, and the smell of diesel and churned earth hangs heavy over the fields. Corporal Samuel Red Hanlon wipes a line of sweat from his brow as he leans over the hood of his mud-caked Willys MB. The same one that's carried his squad since Omaha. A machine gun bursts snap in the distance, followed by the unmistakable thud of American artillery. The Battle of the Hedgerows is grinding into its third brutal week, and every inch of ground costs lives. Red tightens the fan belt with the speed of a man who has done this 100 times since landing. Behind him, Private Leo Kaplan paces anxiously, clutching his Thompson. "Think she'll make it?" Kaplan mutters, glancing toward the distant tree-line, where German 3rd Fallschirmjäger has been ambushing convoys all morning. Red spits into the gravel. "She always makes it." He slams the hood shut, hops into the driver's seat, and pumps the gas pedal twice. The Jeep coughs, sputters, then growls to life with that familiar, stubborn rumble. "See? She ain't quittin' today." The squad piles in, some sitting on the wheel wells, another straddling the rear with a bar, and the little machine shudders forward, tires slicing through ruts in the French soil. Up ahead, a Sherman from the 2nd Armored Division lurches past, turrets swinging to cover their path. The commander inside gives a wave. "Road's hot," he shouts over the engine noise. "Yeah." Red calls back, shifting gears, so's hell. The Jeep rattles forward, weaving between craters, hedgerow gaps, and the twisted remains of a German Kübelwagen, its frame burned out and abandoned along the ditch. A reminder of what happens to those who underestimate what they don't understand. Mills, riding shotgun, taps Red's shoulder. "They laughed at this thing," he says. "Called it a toy truck." Red smirks. "Funny how it's the toy that keeps outrunning their damn bullets." A sudden explosion rips open the road ahead. A German 7.5 centimeters pack shell slamming into a Sherman from the column. The tank erupts in smoke. The squad ducks as shrapnel rains around them. "Go! Move!" Sergeant Logan roars. Red floors the accelerator. The Jeep jolts, claws for traction, and surges through the smoke. A flash of gray uniforms bursts from a hedgerow to their right. German paratroopers firing MP-40S bullets zip past the windshield. Mills returns fire with his Garand. Kaplan sprays the hedgerow with the Thompson. The Jeep doesn't slow. It swings left, bounding through a ditch deep enough to swallow a lesser vehicle. But the Willys doesn't crack, doesn't stall. IT climbs out the other side like a mountain mule, mud flying like rooster tail from its tires. Hold on. Red yells. Veering toward a gap between two stone barns, a 20mm burst from a German flak gun shreds the corner of the wall behind them as they tear through the alleyway. Brick dust billows in their wake. Left! Left! Someone screams. Red yanks the wheel. The Jeep swings sharply, nearly tipping, but the low center of gravity keeps it planted. They burst into an open field where American infantry are regrouping. Logan jumps out first. Medic. We've got wounded down the line. Hanlon, you're with me. Red nods, throws the Jeep into idle, and helps load two injured riflemen into the back. Their faces are pale, uniforms soaked with blood. Can she take it? One medic asks. Red simply says she'll take whatever we give her. The Jeep roars forward again, bouncing across the field toward a makeshift aid station behind an orchard. Mortar rounds explode nearby, shaking apples loose from the branches above. But still it goes, still it carries, still it endures by the time the Jeep returns for another run. Its paint is chipped, its tires gouged, its bodywork dented from every direction. But its engine still purrs. Logan watches it rolling again and shakes his head with a kind of reverent disbelief. Damn thing's made of iron, he mutters. Mills laughs. No, Sarge. It's made of America. And somewhere beyond the hedgerows, German engineers, the same ones who mocked its crude welds, its open frame, its simplicity, are hearing report after report of how the Allies' toy truck is outrunning ambushes, crossing mud fields, climbing impossible slopes, and hauling wounded men out of battles their own vehicles couldn't even enter. They no longer laugh. The Jeep has become something else, a symbol of Allied momentum, a machine that refuses to die, a reminder that brilliance doesn't always look impressive. Sometimes it looks simple, and it is cutting a path straight through France. July 22nd, 1944, south of Saint-Denis, Normandy. Rain turns the earth into sucking mud, the kind that clings to boots and swallows truck tires whole. A column of German vehicles, a battered SD, KFC, 251, two Opel Blitz trucks, and a pair of motorcycles, growls along a forest track that's barely a road at all. Inside the half-track, Lieutenant Eric Vogel rubs mud off his field glasses and peers through the dripping branches. He's been fighting since Poland, long enough to recognize when something in war simply should not be possible. And what he's seen over the past weeks defies every assumption he once held. To his left, on Taraf's ear, Kruger grumbles as he fights the gear shift. These roads, they're not roads at all. It's madness. Vogel replies quietly. And yet the Americans travel them like paved streets. He's thinking of the moments burned into his memory. Moments that have shaken German confidence in a very specific way. 2 days earlier, near Le Desert, he watched a reconnaissance unit set up an ambush along a marshy crossing. A kill zone perfectly chosen. Soft ground, deep ruts, impassable for anything heavier than a motorcycle. Except something did come. Small engines. Fast engines. 3 silhouettes. Low and agile, bursting from the far hedgerow like hunting dogs. Jeeps. They skimmed over the marsh like they were weightless, bounding across wet earth with a speed no German scout car could match. Before Vogel's unit could react, the Americans split. One left, one right, one straight through, and the gunners on the mounted .30 calories opened fire at a 2-minute skirmish. Then the Jeeps were gone, as if the mud had never mattered. That memory gnaws at him now. Kruger slams the half-track into a lower gear again, cursing. We have engineering degrees. Factories. Precision design. That American thing is barely a tractor with seats. Vogel closes the field glasses, and yet it goes where we cannot. Behind them, the Opel Blitz bogs down, wheels spinning uselessly. A motorcycle tries to go around and sinks immediately into a muddy rut. Vogel watches his men struggle, straining, pushing, shouting, and feels the creeping weight of inevitability. We are losing mobility, he murmurs, not to tanks, not to aircraft. His jaw tightens, to a machine no one here took seriously. A rustle in the tree line. Everyone freezes in NCO whispers, her lieutenant movement. Vogel gestures for silence. Rain patters on his helmet as he scans the forest floor. Then he hears it, a soft, familiar growl of an engine. Distinctive. Raspy. Unlike any German vehicle. Americaner, he breathes. The half-track commander signals his men to spread out. Weapons come up. Every eye locks onto the trail entrance ahead. The sound grows louder, bouncing off trunks, unpredictable. Then, a blurt out of Willys MB bursts from the underbrush on their flank, mud spraying from its tires. A single American scout clings to the rear, another manning a stripped-down .30 cal mounted between the seats. The driver ducks instinctively as German rifles snap toward them. Fewer, Vogel shouts. Muzzle flashes rip across the tree line. But the Jeep is already turning, its tiny frame skidding sideways on the mud, swinging around German fire like a dancer pivoting on one foot. It darts behind a fallen oak, then bounds forward again, using the trees themselves as cover. The .30 cal barks short, controlled bursts, a motorcycle collapses sideways, a German rifleman drops behind his truck wheel. The half-track's MG-42 finally roars in response. 1,200 rounds per minute, a chainsaw of bullets shredding foliage. But once again, the Jeep isn't there anymore. The IT zigzags through a cluster of saplings, vanishes behind a curtain of vines, then reappears on the far side of the clearing point. One of Vogel's men shouts, voice cracking. Her lieutenant, it's playing with us. Vogel watches with a bitter blend of awe and dread. The Jeep isn't armored, IT isn't imposing, that IT shouldn't survive a firefight against seasoned German infantry. And yet here it is, not just surviving, but outmaneuvering them. Not because of firepower, not because of protection, because it can go places their vehicles physically cannot, because it can turn faster than they can aim, accelerate faster than they can reposition, disappear faster than they can react, by the time the half-track manages to turn around. The Jeep is gone, swallowed by the forest as completely as a stone falling into a pond. Silence returns. The rain begins again, and one speaks. Finally, Kruger mutters the unthinkable. This war, it favors machines like that. Vogel nods, face tight. For the first time, I think I understand what the Americans have built. He steps down from the half-track and kneels beside the deep, perfect tire tracks left by the Jeep's escape. Tracks carved cleanly through terrain that bogs down German trucks in minutes. A vehicle without ego, he murmurs, just purpose. He stands slowly, rain dripping from the brim of his cap. And that purpose is mobility. Everywhere. Behind him, the German column labors to move even a few dozen meters. Ahead of him, the forest hides a machine that will return again and again, long after his own vehicles have broken down, run out of fuel, or been abandoned on some French road. The realization is complete. The Americans haven't simply built a vehicle, they've built a strategy on wheels, and the German army is now on the wrong side of it. August 8th, 1944, near Le Mans, France. Dawn breaks in streaks of pale gold, filtering over wheat fields crushed by weeks of retreating German forces. A warm breeze brushes the tall grass, carrying with it the distant murmur of engines. Dozens of them, small and quick, moving like a swarm. The sound becomes clearer, higher pitched than trucks, lighter than armor. Jeeps, lots of them. Lieutenant Charles McAllister crouches beside a dusty milestone marker, binoculars pressed to his eyes. The 5th Armored Division is pushing hard toward Argenton, and his reconnaissance platoon has orders. Find the weak points, bypass strongholds, stretch the German line until it snaps. Mac watches as the lead Jeep, its windshield folded down, the driver wearing goggles pushed up onto a helmet streaked with dust, drifts left across the hard-packed dirt road. A second Jeep follows, then a third. Behind him, Private Ray Torres tightens the strap on his M1 and mutters, "Sir, the Krauts thought this thing was a joke." Mac lowers the binoculars, expression sharpening. Then let's be the punchline. He waves them forward. The Jeep engines rev, kicking up long plumes of dust as they race into open countryside, a sight that has become iconic across France. Olive drab silhouettes against endless yellow fields, bouncing across terrain no other vehicle dares to attempt. This is the reality of modern war. Mack thinks. Speed as a weapon. Mobility as a blade. The Jeeps glide between hedgerow breaks, skim across irrigation ditches, then burst onto a farm road lined with abandoned horse carts. Chickens scatter. A cow bellows as the little convoy roars past. Torres thumps the dash as they hit a rut. Gotta love American engineering. Rides like a bronco, but at least she keeps going. Their radio crackles. Recon 6 to all units. German column sighted moving northeast toward the Falaise pocket. Light escort. Interdict if possible. Mack flicks the mic. Copy. Recon 6. We're on it. He turns to Torres. Hang on. The Jeep surges forward, engine whining with eager defiance. They crest a small hill, and there, below them, crawls a German convoy. 2 trucks, a staff car, and a Kubel wagon limping at the rear. Wehrmacht soldiers walk alongside the vehicles, weary, helmets askew, rifles slung without alertness, a perfect target. Not for brute force, but for speed. Mack signals the platoon to fan out. .3 Jeeps arc left through a ditch, weaving between apple trees. .2 more swing right, kicking up dry soil as they take an angled descent. Mack's Jeep charges straight down the slope. The Germans hear them too late. An officer in the staff car stands up, shouting orders, but his words are swallowed by the roar of approaching engines and the staccato crack of American .30 calories firing in short, precise bursts. The Jeeps close in from multiple directions, shooting and shifting positions so quickly the Germans can't establish a firing line. A truck attempts to turn, its rear tires bogged down in soft earth. Another tries to accelerate. The engine sputters and dies. A soldier grabs a Panzerfaust, but a burst from Torres drops him before he can aim. The staff car's driver panics and bails out. Mack's Jeep skids sideways, stopping within 20 feet of the stalled vehicle. Torres hops out, weapon raised. The German officer inside slowly lifts his hands, eyes full of disbelief. He murmurs in accented English. Your machines, they come from everywhere. Mack hears the words, but he's already checking fields, seeking the next threat, next obstacle, next target. Because the truth is simple. Once a Jeep has momentum, stopping feels like failure. Minutes later, the convoy is neutralized, prisoners gathered, weapons piled, documents secured. The American platoon moves with practiced efficiency, each Jeep functioning as command post, gun truck, ambulance, courier, and scout all at once at a single vehicle doing the job of 5. Torres tosses a capture map into the backseat. Sir, we're close to Le Mans. If we push hard, we might beat the 79th Infantry there. Mack grins. Wouldn't be the first time a Jeep outran a division. They mount up again. The engines rev in chorus. Across the field, newly captured German soldiers watch. Exhaustion etched into their faces, but curiosity too. One man, an older Obergefreiter with mud-caked boots, leans toward another and whispers, "So this is the machine that broke France again." The Jeeps roar away, leaving only tire tracks and drifting dust. And for the Germans, the realization deepens. They have built their war on tracks and heavy frames, rigid systems demanding perfect roads and perfect fuel. The Allies built theirs on the opposite idea. A tiny, stubborn vehicle that can go anywhere, especially places German vehicles cannot. A vehicle that turns war into motion. And motion into dominance. Mack's convoy hits the road again, speedometer flirting with 45 miles an hour as they cut across open plains toward another town. Another objective, another unexpected breach in the German line. The war is becoming a race, and the Jeep is built to race. April 25th, 1945, northern Germany, near the Elbe River. The sun is pale and low, glinting off puddles left by relentless spring rains. The landscape is a patchwork of flattened villages, broken bridges, and overturned vehicles, a testament to months of grinding combat. Captain Walter Wally Haynes drives his Willys MB through a narrow street in the ruins of a small town. The engine hums steadily despite the miles it has eaten, the mud it has conquered, and the bullets it has dodged. Beside him, Sergeant Tommy Riggs checks the map, noting the positions of retreating German units and newly liberated villages. This little beast, Riggs says, tapping the dashboard, has carried us through hell and back. Wally smirks. And it'll carry us home too, if it has to. The Jeep snakes around fallen beams and rubble, its tires gripping slick cobblestones with the same stubborn tenacity that carried it across Normandy, France, and into the heart of Germany. Every dent, every scratch, every replaced headlamp tells a story. Reconnaissance runs, supply missions, wounded evacuation, courier duties. Ahead, German half-track lies abandoned, its crew surrendered hours ago. Wally slows, watching two German soldiers rise with cautious hands. One nods toward the Jeep. "Amerikaner, Klein, Aberschnell," he mutters. "Small but fast." Wally laughs softly. "You have no idea." In the town square, other Allied units regroup. Tanks, trucks, and motorcycles line the streets. Formidable machines, each with their place. But it is the Jeeps that move fastest, slipping between streets, scouting flanks, carrying messages, rescuing stragglers, and delivering orders. They are everywhere at once. German general surrenders in a nearby farmhouse. One of his staff officers glances at the Jeep parked outside. He whispers to the general, voice edged with disbelief. "The Americans, these vehicles, they've moved faster than we could anticipate. Across France, Normandy, they never stop." The general nods slowly. "Die Jeep, it is the war's invisible hand." Wally watches as a column of Jeeps races down the main road, carrying officers and messengers, soldiers and supplies, their engines growling a steady, unyielding rhythm. They're small, yes, and unarmored, but nothing can match their mobility. No hedge, no ditch, no destroyed road can halt them. They move where others cannot. They survive where others fail. They endure when heavier machines break. Riggs leans back, taking in the sight. I think we owe a lot more to this little thing than anyone's ever going to know." Wally nods. It's more than a machine. It's a soldier, a courier, a lifeline. And it's won more battles than most think. Around them, the war is ending, but the story of a Jeep is far from over. Reports flood headquarters. Reconnaissance completed, convoys guided, prisoners transported, wounded evacuated. Everywhere the Allies move, the Jeep is there. Often first, often fastest, and often unbroken. It has become an emblem of Allied ingenuity. Simple, reliable, and unstoppable. From the deserts of North Africa to the hedgerows of Normandy, across the fields of France and into Germany itself, the Jeep has carried men, messages, supplies, and hope. It has proven that sometimes the smallest, simplest machines leave the largest mark on history. A.S. Wally drives toward the Elbe, watching the river glint like silver in the morning sun. He reflects on how far they have come. Not on tanks, nor artillery, nor planes, but on a simple, sturdy vehicle built for mobility and endurance. And in that reflection lies the truth. The war is not just fought by men, but by the machines that carry them, protect them, and allow them to move faster, farther, and smarter than the enemy. The Jeep, once mocked as a toy by German engineers, has carried the Allies across Europe, reshaping the battlefield through sheer determination and ingenuity. It has proven that mobility, simplicity, and reliability can outweigh size, armor, and firepower. And as the sun rises over the Elbe, Wally knows, as does every soldier who has ridden in its battered frame, that the Jeep will be remembered long after the guns fall silent.